It's the Monday Top 5, Paul Catalina. That's me. And look, we don't normally do NFL topics here, but we're shaking things up in the new year on the Top 5. And look, I'm an expert about a great many things, but one of them, I have complete confidence, and Garrett, please back me up here. And not just because I said this, and if you don't agree with me, I'll punch you in the kidneys, but I feel like I'm a pretty good expert on the Cowboys.
I'd give you that.
I'm very fair. I'm not a homer. I've covered them. I see that. The lawnmower and weed eater you hear out right now is really my burning rage at how things have not gone the right way and how they always kind of pick this time to mow our lawn. But number 5, best contenders for the Cowboys head coaching opening. And some of these are not very inspired. But you know why? Because I know the Cowboys, and they don't really often make inspired choices. Number 5, Kellen Moore. This is more likely to happen, I think, than a lot of people realize. Because Jerry likes things that are comfortable. He also likes things that he thinks he created. Thinks he created Kellen Moore. They drafted Kellen Moore. His first job was on their coaching staff. He's subsequently been with the Chargers and Eagles. The Eagles just had just a ridiculous season of offense with Saquon Barkley, which I would say makes your job as an offensive coordinator easier. No offense to Kellen Moore. I think he's actually a really brilliant offensive mind, and it's just starting to scratch the surface of how good a coach he can be. But when you figure out, like, hey, why did Saquon leave the Giants? It's like, oh, they didn't give him the ball enough. And, like, why do we give him the ball more? And then you're better. Like, sometimes the simplest answer is the best one for you, and Kellen Moore can do that. Is it inspired? Is it going to get everybody fired up? Probably not, but I actually think this is a kind of a nice choice, and Dak Prescott would be very comfortable with him because they're very close. Number 4, Dan Lanning. This is in my Shake It Up file. Go get Dan Lanning. He's a coach that's arrow is pointed up. He's a young coach. He hasn't won a national title yet, but I do think he has the vibes to be able to deal with Jerry and be in Dallas. If you're going to get a college coach, him, Marcus Freeman, don't talk to anybody else. That's who I would go with if you're going to go for the college coach. Will Jerry go for a college coach? Unlikely. I know a lot of people say Deion Sanders. I just don't think that's going to happen. I just don't think that's going to happen. Deion would like to coach his sons. He said plural. Well, there's no way the Cowboys are going to get at least one of those in Shedeur Sanders. Number 3, Ben Johnson. This is the one that most of Cowboys fandom wants, and I see why. He's a brilliant offensive mind. He's great with the offensive line. You never really know where it's coming. He's big on running the ball, which the Cowboys aren't great at doing, and they need to do if Dak Prescott's their quarterback, and he's made Jared Goff the best version of himself. This is probably too good to be true for the Cowboys, but if they get him, this could be really good for Dak Prescott because the offense relies on running the ball with multiple running backs. Think about this. The Cowboys have a decent number of draft picks. They're not chock full, but you could see Ashton Genty and, say, maybe a Taj Brooks in the same backfield. Ideally, I would say Ashton Genty and Cam Skattebo, but I don't think that's going to happen. But say you could say Cam Skattebo and Devin Neal or Omarion Hampton and Taj Brooks. I mean, I can go on and on and on with the combinations that they could find to create that Sonic and Knuckles tandem that they have in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and with David Montgomery. That, for me, would be huge if the Cowboys could get this exciting young coach. Do I think they will do that? I do not, but this would be a good one. Number 2, Kliff Kingsbury. There's kind of this back and forth between the Cowboys and Washington. As a matter of fact, most of the good things that happened to Washington this year happened outside of, the Jaden Daniels thing, which had nothing to do with Dallas, with them taking from Dallas. They took Dan Quinn. Then they took Dorrance Armstrong. Then they took Tyler Biotish. Then they took Dante Fowler. I can go on and on and on, but the Commanders' playoff run is filled with excellent role players from the Cowboys. Dorrance Armstrong had a sack last night, and I can't tell you how much the Cowboys miss him. He was a jack of all trades, defense, special teams. He made things happen. They miss that guy. And how do you continue this ping pong back and forth? Well, you go get their guy. And Kliff Kingsbury, Texas Tech, he's got all these Texas vibes about him. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the head coaching job that puts it all together. And the Cowboys owner and general manager is just conceited enough to think that he's the one who can pull it off with Kliff Kingsbury as the head coach. Again, I'm not really doing the best thing for the Cowboys is if they had a new general manager. That's not going to happen. But I can see this happening. Now, the number 1 coach who I think for what they're trying to do and who Jerry will maybe want to talk to the most is Pete Carroll. He's won a Super Bowl. This is kind of redoing the McCarthy thing again. He's won a Super Bowl. He's overwhelmingly positive. He can get in there and kind of shake things up, help Dak out a little bit. He was big on running the ball except for one time when he could have won another Super Bowl, and Marshawn Lynch and the world have never forgotten about it. But he's probably learned his lesson since then. At 1 yard line, when you've got Marshawn Lynch, run the ball. So when you get Ashton Genty at pick 12, and I'm going to speak that into existence, but he's very good at doing the simple things and making that the basis of a team and building around that. Plus, those Seattle defenses were always legit. Dan Quinn, part of that Pete Carroll tree. Well, Dan Quinn not available, not leaving Washington. Well, if you want to pluck from the Pete Carroll tree, why don't you pluck old Pete Carroll? Since you're not going to probably go young, go old. You're not going to get Ben Johnson, get Pete Carroll. That's what I say if you're the Cowboys, and that's my top 5. Best odds as their coach and maybe best options right now. If they go well outside the box, more power to you, Jerry Jones. I hope you do. It's been a very long time of running on this hamster wheel of not winning a Super Bowl or meaningful playoff games if you're the Cowboys, and something needs to change. We're wrapping it up right now.